in the future, the state of Israel have to control on the entire area from the river to the sea.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just said the quiet part out loud, and nobody should be surprised, as he has been banging this drum the entire time. So I'm going to get to a clip of a statement, but first, this is the top line from AP here. Netanyahu says he has told the U.S. he opposes a Palestinian state in any post-war scenario. The Biden administration, and I'll get to some of their comments as well, have been defending the Israeli government while assuring journalists that, oh, don't worry, we are working closely with the Israeli government to both try and put an end to this war where Israel is doing all the bombing, so it's not really a war, to put an end to this so-called war, and discussing how there is going to be a Palestinian state. So, worrying about the day after the so-called war of establishing a Palestinian state to ensure that they're on the same page. Yet here you have Netanyahu spitting in the face of the Biden administration, saying that, not even just like quietly telling them no, openly bragging that no, we are absolutely destroying Gaza. We are taking the whole thing over, and you can't do anything about it. Or not that you can't do anything about it, you won't do anything about it. Because the U.S. can do something about it. They can stop aid to Israel. They can stop sending weapons to Israel. They can put an end to all of this by cutting off ties with Israel. But they are not willing to do what is necessary to save human lives in Gaza. So this is, before I even get to Netanyahu's, the clip of him here, just to establish what's going on. So an update on the numbers, the death toll in the so-called conflict. Again, one side's doing everything. So this is over the last 15 years, 2008 to 2023. The orange, the large bar here of deaths are Palestinians. The purple is Israelis, and all of these deaths came on October 7th. As in terms of civilians, none have happened since. And it's all been a bombing campaign by the far right-wing Israeli government, killing the vast majority civilians in Gaza, while saying they're going after Hamas. Because, it's very normal to bomb entire cities to get criminals. When there's a criminal, when there's a shoplifter, let's be a little more generous. When there is somebody at a school committing a crime, let's say, a mass crime at a school, the cops go in there, or the military goes in there and bombs the entire school. Because that's how you deal with criminals. You just kill all the civilians that they're around. In what other scenario does this make any sense? Would this be defended by anybody? Yet Israel does it to Gaza, to Palestinians. Oh, it's the fault. It's the fault of those children being bombed. They shouldn't have been there. And to be clear, yes, half of them children. The life expectancy in Gaza is very low. For various reasons. Lack of medicine, lack of food. Of course, there was a military blockade on Gaza well before October 7th. So already life there was terrible. You have here half the people being killed in Gaza, children. And when you add women into that, the vast majority of those being killed are women and children. And the US, the UK, Canada, other Western powers have been defending the Israeli government. Here are more updated data points. So at least 24,000 have been killed in Gaza since October 7th, and over 61,000 injured. The injured number often gets forgotten here because we focus on the deaths for obvious reasons, but think about surviving a bombing, losing a limb. We're talking about tens of thousands of people in addition to the deaths. Here are the full comments from Netanyahu, and take a note of what else he says during this.
For 30 years, I am very consistent, and I'm saying something very simple. This conflict is not on the lack of a state of Palestinian, but the existence of a state, the Jewish state. Every area that we evacuate, we receive terrible terror against that. It happened in South Lebanon, in Gaza, and also Judea and Samaria, which we did it. And therefore, I clarify that in any other arrangement, in the future, the state of Israel have to control on the entire area from the river to the sea. This is what happens when you have sovereignty. This truth I say to our American friends. And I also stopped the attempt to impose on us a reality that will jeopardize us. A prime minister in Israel has to be able to say no, even to the best of friends. To say no when you need to and to say yes when you can.
Outright rejecting the idea of a Palestinian state, despite all of the history, despite the fact that Israel was established on Palestinian land, rejecting the idea outright, publicly. And in addition to that, you also have him using the phrase, from the river to the sea. Where have we heard that before? Because I'm told this is very offensive. I'm told that when anyone else uses it, wow, it must mean they want to eliminate Israel completely. They want to eliminate all the citizens. Here's Owen Jones with a succinct reaction to this. Are you a citizen chanting from the river to the sea, in which you mean equal rights for Jews and Palestinians? Will wreck your career. Are you an Israeli leader saying from the river to the sea, meaning occupation and apartheid? Will give you arms to commit mass murder. This is literally what has been going on. You had, the obvious, the big example from a few years ago was Mark Lamont Hill from CNN losing his job for saying from the river to the sea when giving a speech on Palestinians. CNN calling it controversial remarks in Israel to discuss. And I have a larger breakdown on the actual comments from the river to the sea in a different video and the historical context around that. And of course, it can mean different things depending on how you're using it. But its established use initially was about equal rights for Jewish people and Palestinians in a single state solution. That is the initial use of it. But the way it's been twisted is claiming that those fighting for Palestinian rights are claiming to eliminate Israel, when in reality you have Israeli leaders outright saying they want to eliminate Gaza. And then, of course, you have the U.S. House censuring Rashida Tlaib for those same comments, again, when she's discussing equal rights, and the White House rejecting the phrase outright. I wonder what their thoughts are on Netanyahu using it in the context of complete annihilation of Gaza. But here's what the U.S. has been trying to do from the AP here. The U.S. has called on Israel to scale back the offensive that aims to eliminate Gaza's Hamas rulers, and American officials have said the establishment of a Palestinian state should be part of the day after. So the U.S. has stated publicly this is what they want. They want there to be a Palestinian state. And there, of course, have been frustrations around that discussion with Netanyahu, despite Secretary of State Antony Blinken meeting recently with Netanyahu and others in the Israeli government. They are so frustrated with Netanyahu and the Israeli government that they once again bypassed Congress to send them emergency weapons to go on to then further bomb more civilians in Gaza. But Blinken's attempt here in his recent meeting, his major achievement, as NBC News writes, on the trip was getting a commitment from Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and 4 other Arab leaders to help rebuild Gaza after the war. Multiple senior administration officials said the Arab leaders also agreed to support a new reformed Palestinian government to secure Gaza. The Saudi Crown Prince offered to normalize relations with Israel as part of a Gaza reconstruction agreement, a diplomatic development Netanyahu's long sought, but only if the Israeli leader agrees to provide Palestinians with a pathway to statehood. Look at who is, in this case, who is the extremist? Because, and this is not defending, in no way defending the Saudi government, which are extreme in their own ways. But you have here the Saudis agreeing, yes, we will normalize relations with Israel as long as Palestinians have a state. Just some basic human rights, some basic, advocacy over their own land. Just allow them to have their land. That's all that's being asked here. And who's the one rejecting this? Netanyahu. The far, far right-wing extremist Israeli government are the ones rejecting this basic human right. The Biden administration is trying to lay the groundwork with other Israeli and civil society leaders in anticipation of an eventual post-Netanyahu government. In an attempt to work around Netanyahu, Blinken also met individually with members of his war cabinet and other Israeli leaders. So this has been, they've already been aware of Netanyahu's position here, just it hasn't been as clear as it is in this speech from Netanyahu. But they've already been trying to work around him and essentially saying, well, okay, under Netanyahu, there's not going to be a Palestinian state. But if the Israeli people decide to get him out, and the Israeli citizens apparently are not a fan of Netanyahu, if he is voted out, then maybe they can get someone else in there. But there's already been multiple power grabs by Netanyahu to keep power in Israel. At this point, as of recording this, it is hard to imagine that anyone else in Netanyahu's position would do anything different, or would even consider discussing a Palestinian state. So while Blinken is trying to work around Netanyahu, it doesn't mean that's actually going to be successful. And again, I think this all hinges on the fact that the U.S. has shown complete unwavering support to the right-wing Israeli government. If there were any attempts at all to say no, to, not send weapons, for one, to Israel, if there were any attempts at all to reject any of the asks from the Israeli government, then you would actually have some leverage. There may be some actual pressure on the Israeli government to feel they have to work with the U.S. to get what they want. But there has been no attempts here at all to try and rein in the Israeli government. And the result is a Netanyahu who feels so empowered that he's willing to go out there and discuss openly how he wants to completely destroy Gaza and control all the land. This is just amazing. I had to find a way to fit this in. This is, as many are quote tweeting this, saying, this is U.S. foreign policy in a nutshell.
Are the airstrikes in Yemen working?
Well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes.
How amazing is that? This is U.S. foreign policy in a nutshell. Is it working? No. Will we keep doing it? Yes. Nothing really to add there. It's just incredible. And to give you another idea of just the list of war crimes, I haven't been able to keep track. It's too much for me to really follow what is going on in Gaza. But this is one small example of what the Israeli government have been doing every single day in Gaza. They recently blew up a university near Gaza City. There was no reason to do that, but they did it. Because again, this is not about getting Hamas. This is about completely destroying Gaza. This is ethnic cleansing. This is literal ethnic cleansing, trying to eliminate an entirety of people. That's what they are doing here. And I'm not sure I could show the video on YouTube, but that's the result. It's just disgusting what this administration, what the Biden administration, along with, let's be clear as well, the UK and Canada, what they have all been not even excusing, but enabling the Israeli government to do and to continue doing is absolutely grotesque.